Hi, this is Chris Ronquillo. We're at Spike and Nail in Selma, California. This is MMA Fight Pass, along with Tom Owens, a new place, a new co-host, and we have an in-house guest, Mr. Chris Honeycutt, Bellator veteran, waiting for a fight. We want everybody to join us every Wednesday. This is our spot. You can either come here live, enjoy one of these awesome sandwiches, or just listen to us or watch us on you have Facebook? Are we doing Facebook? Facebook Live? But mainly right now we're going to kind of review a lot of stuff that's been happening, and some of the things that we're going to be talking about obviously is Chris, and then this past UFC and fights that are coming up local here in the Valley. Tom, first of all, I want to welcome you, man. It's an honor and pleasure.
I appreciate it.
I've known you for a minute, and just for you to be a part of it, man. Tell people a little bit about yourself.
Yeah, you know, I'm a lifelong martial artist, and like many people, I saw the Gracies, and at the time I was just doing karate and kung fu, and you know, I saw Hoist Gracie go in there and do his thing, and at the time there was no jiu-jitsu at all in this area. It was literally just taekwondo and kung fu schools. Yeah, so anyhow, when I moved away up north of college, I ran across the Japanese jiu-jitsu school, and that's where I got my start, and just continued from there. And later on, I started training with Ralph Gracie and the Camarillo brothers, and basically any jiu-jitsu I could get. And we started training jiu-jitsu out of my garage in Visalia, California, and it was really one of the first jiu-jitsu studios in this area. And now, it just amazes me. There's literally jiu-jitsu on almost every corner around here, and the sport has grown rapidly here. And yeah, it's crazy.
It is. I know. Well, I started paying more attention to the MMA in 2001, and I know. Well, just before that. Well, no, it was during that time. It was the first time I had to see you fight out in Porterville, Eagle Mountain in the summer, and. Then the next time at Tachi, WEC, and the rest is history. But I know at that time you were involved with a group of guys that trained together, Jabushi.
Yeah.
You know, and that was kind of like the foundation how MMA kind of evolved in Central California. And because outside of that, they had their fights like up in Table Mountain,
right,
where they had their tournaments and stuff. But I mean, actually, as far as, I think Pacific Martial Arts was doing some kind of stuff too. But
Jiu-Jitsu at Pacific Martial Arts was one of the only places in the Valley. And when I found out about them, we would travel, you know, 3-4 times a week over there and train with Ted Stobie and Matt Smith. And at that time, Matt had Dan Camarillo and Dave Camarillo coming over there quite a bit. So yeah, the scene grew rapidly after that. Like you said, I fought in Gladiator Challenge, and at that time, like, it was small. Not a lot of people were paying attention to it. Yeah, just, it's great how it's grown. And these guys that are fighting at Tachi Palace now, I don't know if they realize, like, that's some sacred MMA ground.
Oh, yeah.
Right there. You know
I remember the days where they would have their fights outside, and, well, what we would consider today as an amateur fight, the main event, between Raphael and Mike Sir was actually the main event, and these guys were making more money than whatever. Yeah. You know, and that place sold out, over 5,000 people. They've never had that many ever since. You know, so that's kind of gives you an idea of what used to go on, and then you know, the economy changes and you kind of reduce funds as far as for your marketing and everything like that. It was a show you look forward to, but it was an event, because I remember we used to go to Hooters, have the guys out there, and at that time Tachi had a football team.
Yeah, I remember that.
Central Valley Coyotes, and actually at that time I was sponsoring Mike Kyle when he fought in the UFC.
Some legendary fights out there.
Yeah, and actually got him to play football on that team. It was good. There's a lot of history and stuff like that. But I'm going to move over to Chris. He's the next generation.
Yes, sir.
The next waves that's coming up, and guys we're looking to hopefully break out and represent where we live. So what's going on with you, buddy?
Not much, just a long day of training. just like every other day, coming off Memorial Day, and just pretend I'm in a fight camp and just hoping I get that phone call soon.
Yeah, what's up with that, man? I know you December, and then we're almost at half a year already.
Yeah, December 1st. Yeah, I'm on a goose egg so far this year.
Wow,
So.
man, what, I know Javi Ayala went through a couple of things like that too.
Yeah.
And finally they gave him a big fight, and unfortunately things happened, but and didn't work
he'll
out.
be back.
But he'll be back. He's a young guy, and you. But like I said, time doesn't stop. We all evolve and get older, so you want to reap those rewards of that time, while you're young and you're fresh. So
How old are you, Chris?
I'll be 30 at the end of July, so I'm like in that pinnacle time where I would like to be pumping as many fights through as possible.
Yeah, you're in your prime.
So, and that's what opens the doors to be able to box or do kickboxing as well.
So you're looking to do some boxing or kickboxing, maybe?
I train every martial art throughout it every week, and I'm a full-time fighter. I don't have any side jobs or anything like that. So I do train 2-3 times a day. So if there's an
100%
opportunity,
dedicated.
to compete, I'm willing to do so.
It's great.
See, and that's good because you're with a promotion that actually does that too. Because I know Fernando Gonzalez, and when he fought Daly,
Yeah.
and that was good. So there's no reason why, you can't keep active too.
Yeah, I mean, my strongest attribute's my wrestling. So obviously in boxing and in the stand-up aspect, it might not be my strongest element, but I've been fighting for 5-6 years professionally. So I might not be the number one contender in those weight classes or my weight.
But it's a skill that you work on.
But of course, and like I said, and I can scrap like anyone else.
Now, Chris, you obviously have a very decorated wrestling career. You grew up in Ohio?
Yeah, on the west side of Cleveland.
What was it like wrestling in Ohio?
It's like the only analogy I can put in perspective would be like playing football in Texas. It's
Top of the food chain,
right?
When
Church is over, everyone goes to the basement to the wrestling room, and I wouldn't say it's religion, but it's like football in Texas. I started wrestling when I was 4 years old.
Wow.
And I wrestled all the way up through college until I started fighting. And I went to a prestigious high school, St. Edward's, which was number 1, 2, 3 in the country consecutive for, I'd say, the past couple decades.
Nice. So what got you, what made you hit the switch to go over to MMA?
Well, about halfway through high school, that's when Chuck Liddell started getting, all the publicity, and there was Pride and Rampage. So I always knew that I would eventually fight. I always had the dream to be the Olympian in wrestling, since I did spend my entire life doing that. But when I graduated college, I would have had to sit out for 3 years to continue training wrestling to have that opportunity. So I had to make the big boy decision to sit out 3 more years of not fighting and continue to wrestle to pursue that one dream, or I can just get a head start on my second dream, which was to fight.
Nice. What was the first MMA that you saw that really got your interest? Is there like a fight in particular, like somebody you saw maybe?
I want to say it was Chuck, but I'm not entirely sure. I just remember this guy took him down, and he just only throws right hand. He never threw a jab. And I look back on it now, and I'm just saying it was not very good form. That's what makes me think it might not be Chuck. But the form was not good at all, but it was very exciting. And
Caught your attention.
and there's a lot of wrestling. So then you watch that one fight, you watch more.
Yep.
And it's just because you're good at one thing does not, you're very limited. So and I've wrestled my whole life, which is a single sport. And wrestling in itself, throughout my whole life, I did find times where I was getting bored. But now that you add boxing and kickboxing and those other aspects, I'm always entertained, and I'm always motivated to continue to work. And I don't ever dread going into practice because of boredom.
You enjoy it, that's great.
Yeah, I enjoy it. It's the best job in the world.
All right, guys, we're going to hold off a little bit, pay a few bills. This first segment was brought to you by Spike and Nail. We'll be back.
You want me to stare at the camera more or have the conversation? Okay. I try to look back here and there because I know we're talking to the people too.
Welcome back to MMA Fight Pass. Once again, I'm Chris Ronquillo, Tom Owens, and Bellator veteran. I almost said the other word. Chris Honeycutt. We're
Don't say
back.
the other word.
We're gonna go ahead and continue with Chris a little bit, and then we're gonna update and talk about the past UFC. Go ahead, Tom. Do you have anything for us?
Yeah, you know what, Chris, I've watched a lot of your fights. You're a straight head. I mean, you go forward in your fights. You put a lot of pressure on your guys. There's no dancing around or getting away from you in a fight. I personally love to see a guy that fights like that. What did you think of the fight this last weekend with Darren Till and Stephen Wonderboy Thompson? Did you catch that?
Wonderboy. You know what? I'm sorry, I did not actually catch that fight.
Chris, what did you think about it?
I have a DVR.
You know, it was a fight when I first seen it matched. I thought, man, this fight's not going to go more than 2 rounds, maybe even 1. Seeing Till the way he's been fighting and stopping guys his last, plus fighting in his backyard, and then Wonder Boy, you know, with his karate style, it's kind of, something's going to happen. They both gave a lot of each other a lot of respect, and then they kind of fought conservative. A lot of people that were complaining it was like a bore fest. You know, how did you felt? Who do you think got the nod? Should have got the nod?
You know what? I think like those two guys, that first fight like that was. It seemed like they were just testing each other. They would almost have to have 10 rounds to see what would happen on that night.
They were starting to get into the rhythm at the end.
I think if they were to fight again, I just have a feeling Darren Till might step it up a little more.
Yeah.
And get in there, but those fights, you know, you get 2 guys like that, you think it's going to be a barn burner, and then that happens.
Yeah, and you know I don't know, man. It's just I was waiting for Wonderboy to pull the trigger, but he got hesitant. But he was getting caught with that overhand right a lot too, and I think that kind of make him hesitate a little bit. But then when he dropped Till twice, I don't know how he lost that fight. I see him winning, but with a split decision because of that.
If it was in Vegas,
double knockdown. But fighting over there, that's the only way I think he. If he would have fought here in the States, I think he would have won at least by a split decision.
Now, Chris, I'm really liking what Bellator has been doing. It seems like they're kind of, I don't know, in my eyes, they're doing a great job. How do you feel about fighting in Bellator?
No, Bellator's. I've only fought in Bellator ever since fighting at the UPC, and they've taken care of me. I mean, obviously, I'm on a little long stint here, we're not getting a fight, but overall, I mean, the 1 year I had a clash of heads, so I had a no contest with one of my opponents. Then I had a rematch, and then sad to say I took my first loss, getting a little too, I would say, arrogant, but
it happens.
You know, they understood, so they were able to keep me busy. I explained to them that it seems like, 'cause I'm used to wrestling. I'm used to wrestling several times a week, every week consecutively, so you don't live that long on a loss. So they worked with me, and they were able to get me back in the cage and start turning the wheels back in the right direction. I'm just hoping to do that again here soon.
I believe they'll get you in there real soon. They got a lot of big things coming up. When you come through a loss, I know for myself, everybody handles it different when you take a loss. I would go into some deep, dark holes and just, after a loss, avoid everybody and, maybe for a couple weeks, it wasn't good. How do you take a loss? Where do you go from there?
I think a lot of it has to do with how I lose. I know my first loss, it was a TKO, and it was the first round, very short, and I just fought him previously, and I was dominating the match hands down. So fighting him again, a rematch, and then taking a loss so quickly in the fight, that was very devastating to me because of that. But my last loss against, arguably one of the best jiu-jitsu guys in the world,
Lovato,
for not just like a single year, but a several-year period, and that's just a small tactical game plan that I needed to tweak. I had the right game plan. I went in there. I controlled the fight. The refs just didn't see it quite my way.
Yeah, a lot of people don't understand. Rafael Lovato Jr., his jiu-jitsu is no joke. It's some of the best in the world. we saw that in his last fight. His transitions, his arm bars, I mean, he's very slick on the ground. He's been in that game for a long time. I thought you did a very good job in that fight. You know what I mean? He didn't get anything off on you. You did well. The average person, they don't understand how good that guy is on the ground. You have to be smart in a fight with that guy. If you go crazy and get sloppy in that fight, you're going to get caught. Yeah, I like the fight. You did a very good job.
Yeah, I mean, my goal going into it was pretty much just control every moment. And I did find, going back and rewatching the fight, I did find a couple of moments that he maybe took slight control of, but only a few seconds over the 15 minutes. You know, there's always something to learn. Even though I disagree with the results, there are things to learn from it. And you know, if I fight him again, I pray I fight him again. So
yeah, I'd like to see that too. Talk about your jiu-jitsu training a little bit. You train at D-Throne in Fresno, right?
I do. Yes.
I know there's some sharks swimming in that water. You got Mason Fowler over there, he's an upcoming guy.
Oh yeah.
What's it like training with a guy like that?
It's great. I mean, I remember when Mason first came to the Throne, because I was there before him, and my raw wrestling ability, I was able to, you know, I wouldn't say necessarily do as I please, because he was good at jiu-jitsu at that time as well, but it was more of a scrap, and I would usually win that scrap. But over the past 2.5 years, he's been so dedicated to the sport that if I roll with him now in gi, I'm just trying to not get submitted and find a dominant position when I can.
Yeah, that's great. That's great. Yeah, he's gotten real good over the last couple of years. Who else do you train with over there? I
know Gabriel's over there. He's just got his extended visa from Brazil to stay in the U.S., so he'll be there for a couple of years now. And
he's the head instructor for jiu-jitsu?
The head instructor, yeah, and he's very knowledgeable. I mean,
and he's an active competitor too, right?
Yeah, I think he's at the Worlds this coming weekend, I believe.
Nice.
Him and Mason are competing, so I look forward to seeing, you know.
Do you compete in jiu-jitsu tournaments as well?
I haven't competed yet. I'm not gonna lie. I'm not the biggest fan of their scoring system. It's not like wrestling where
it's a whole different deal.
Where in wrestling it's two bulls collide and the stronger one wins. Jiu-jitsu is more passive aggressive. So in the way that they do their scoring, I just never really got into it. And I mean, I've been doing it in training. I'll train it all day in and day out, but
yeah,
to
you
make
can tell
weight
in your fights,
and go on the weekends, and it's hard to make money in jiu-jitsu.
That's right, as of yet.
So,
right on, man. Well, when is your next fight? You don't have nothing signed up yet?
No, not yet.
Come on, Bellator, we got to get something going with this guy.
Well, what I'd like to ask him, if you get that opportunity, I'm sure it's going to happen pretty soon. Any particular name out there you want to shout out to?
Oh, it's I don't have a name off the top of my head. I would literally fight anybody at 205 or 185 or even 170 if I have enough time to cut back down. But you know, whenever I think of fighting now, I always think of my last opponent. So you know, I know when he was going to fight my former black belt trainer, there was John Salter, but Salter had an issue with his eye and had to pull out. I immediately got on the cell phone, text my managers. I'm like, you know, I'm ready for a rematch, and I'll do it tomorrow. But they ended up finding an opponent before the word got to them. So.
And that was his last fight that he had? And
that was his last fight. I can certainly tell you, though, that I would not have taken him down just to get submitted.
That's good, that's it. What are some of the guys out there that you think on the radar, well, I mean, besides you out there, that kind of going to work, how do you want to say it, that work with your style when you fight?
I actually prefer to fight with anybody that wants to exchange. Like, I like the whole idea of Sam Tex Daly. Like, I like his to fight somebody similar like him.
Yeah.
That we're not trying to, you know, skate through 3 rounds and figure out who's going to win the unanimous decision, but who's going to step in the middle and figure out who's going to win.
Hop right into the pot.
I mean, it's a fight. It's not dancing.
That's right.
Right on. And that's it. They need, it's a lot of them. I always tell guys what happens, because you get guys that transition, say, from the amateurs and the pros, and then they do pretty good for a while with the pros, but then they suffer their first defeat, then all of a sudden they get into that lull because
Yeah.
mentally they gotta, get themselves up to it. But if you notice, I always tell these guys when I was a coach to fight at a pace, not at a panic, because you're trying to finish this stuff, and that's when you make mistakes.
Yeah.
And if you review a tape of anybody or you come in with emotion, that's a killer right there. Every time I've seen somebody where you see,
Yeah.
with emotion. McGregor's done it. All of them have at one time or another, where they come in with that really angry, not just a show, but for reals. They usually,
Yeah, a lot of guys got to pump themselves up.
yeah.
Yeah, I feel like I suffered my first loss that way. Like I
When
said,
you're
I was-
backstage, that's what I was going to ask you. Like, what's going through your head when you're backstage?
I'm real
getting-
calm and collective,
Yeah.
minus my first loss, because it was the rematch after I was beating him so, I was fighting so aggressive and being so successful that coming back into that rematch, that first round, it felt like it was like round 3. So I went in just, ready to brawl, but everyone's ready to brawl in the first round.
Yeah,
So
exactly.
my typical game plan is to break people down, wear them down, and then, force my will upon them.
Nice.
But again, like you said, when you fight on emotion, big mistakes happen quickly.
That's for sure.
They do. All right, guys, another chance to pay some bills here. We want to shout out to Klepler Digital Media for helping us out a little bit. Pay some more bills, and we'll be right back. Okay.
Yes, sir.
Make sure you can see him in there. And take a bite. Here we go.
You want me to stagger more this way?
No, he's gonna pan out. Go ahead and take over. I'm chewing.
We live? All right, we're back, guys. We're here at the Spike and Rail in Selma. If you want to get a good tri-tip sandwich, this is the spot right here. No joke. You like steaks, salmon, good salads, hamburgers, this is the spot right here. And we're back. So,
All right. Go ahead, Tom.
Go ahead. Chris, I was going to ask you, like, what's a typical day for you in training?
Well, it changes a little bit when I'm just training or when I'm in training camp, because I have the weight management as well. But the typical days like today, I wake up, 8, 9 o'clock. I just kind of go around the house, get loose, and, because now that I'm getting close to 30, which will be next month, you get sores and aches from the previous day. So
Wait till you're 40.
I try to see it. Hopefully I'm not fighting when I'm 40 and I can just deal with it. But, I try to get limber, maybe go take the dogs for a walk or a short run in the morning. And then, I start training at 12. And from 12 to 2, I'm on the clock, 2:30-ish after I'm done doing a little extra. But, and then I'm back in there at around 6 or 7 for no gi or gi. So my days from 9 to about, I would say 9 at night, so about 12 hours, but there's breaks in between, but I work 2 to 3 times a day.
Good deal. Nice.
Hey, before we move on, I want to introduce everybody to Paul Elizondo. He's a 5'5", 125 champ. He's an addition to MMA Fight Pass. He's going to join us, one of our correspondents out there, an active fighter. Paul, how you doing, my friend?
Good, brother. How are you?
All right. Tell people a little bit about you, man, and you can join us in our conversation.
Yeah, you pretty much took it. I'm fight at 125s. I don't walk around at that. It kind of hurts me when I think about it.
Really?
But,
What are you walking around at?
I would say 142 on a heavy day. If I'm consistently working out, my body won't go any heavier. But after a fight, the day up or the day after or the week after, I could get up to 150. But once I'm back in the gym, it'll shave off.
Metabolism's on fire.
Yeah,
man.
yeah.
yeah.
How
One
old are
day
you?
it'll die out. 26.
26.
Yeah.
Nice. Now, I've seen you, you fight in 559? I've seen you fight out there a few
Correct.
times.
I have fought for the promotion.
Are you the champion out there?
As of right now, I am not.
So what you fought at another organization and then basically you just let go of that belt?
Yeah, I let it go.
Okay.
So you ready to take your next step pro?
I believe so, yeah.
Yeah, that's good. Have you thought about fighting out there at Tachi maybe?
That's one. It's the closest promotion I feel for me. A lot of people want to travel the world, but when it comes to fighting, it's really not a vacation until after.
That's right.
But I really don't want to unless I have to travel.
Now, do you
far.
train with Chris at Dethrone?
I actually have been going to their no-gi practices a couple times. I've been to 2 already. Today, the last one that I went to was pretty mind-blowing. I'm walked in, and I was the smallest guy in there, and I wasn't expecting it.
What's it like training with this guy? Beast?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, everybody in there, somebody way bigger than me that moves the same way is pretty mind-blowing.
Yeah, I think we start off right around, I think, 170 to 265. So any 125 pounder will find themselves, really having to use all their strength, especially with Ernest James in there.
I made sure. So at the end of the day, I had 2 options for my last match. Him or the other guy, and I was like, well,
You're swimming with sharks either way.
I'm just gonna gamble and choose him. Let's see what he got. I had no other choice.
Wow.
Nice. Now, you have a strong wrestling background as well?
I have wrestled. I didn't do too much damage in high school state. I was a match away from placing my senior year. I actually missed a weight my junior year at state. Went to a NAIA division college for 2 years. Really did nothing, more of a training partner. Did some open tournaments, did okay, but definitely not at the elite level. Came back and pretty healthy, so like Chris mentioned earlier, I got pretty bored with just wrestling, going back into my old wrestling room and wrestling. So I met a buddy, we went to jiu-jitsu, and I started weightlifting. I was barely walking on the scale in my freshman year in college at like 123. That's like with a Gatorade in my hand.
Yeah.
And like I had guys
pocket
cutting
of quarters.
I had guys coming from 150. So at that time, I realized I was too small to compete at 125. So about a year and a half, I was lifting heavy, got up to 135, and I was like, okay, now it's time to switch it up. Tired of weightlifting now. Was tired of wrestling, so I went to jiu-jitsu.
Where was your first jiu-jitsu?
Halo Jiu-Jitsu,
Oh, really?
correct.
Who's the instructor over there?
I have Angel Lopez, Jeff Shields.
Oh, Halo Jiu-Jitsu.
Oh, yeah,
Great.
Halo.
Oh, great,
yeah,
man.
yeah,
Great. Is he linked up with Speedy?
yeah.
Yeah.
Luis Gonzalez?
Yeah.
All right. That's awesome. So
Yeah,
you
Speedy
get a
comes
roll
in.
with Speedy?
Every now and then when he comes in, I try to.
Oh, there you
He's-
go, yeah.
he's no joke.
Yeah, no way.
That guy's
one
a
of the best
matrix,
around.
man.
Every chance I can get a butt whipping, I'll take it. Cause
Yeah,
at
man.
least in the practice room.
Back in the day, Luis, back in the day in Djibouti, before there was all these jiu-jitsu schools, we had Tom Knox, Luis Gonzalez, Mark De La Cruz, literally all the jiu-jitsu coaches now, we were all under one roof. And Luis, he is really no joke. Like, he was really dedicated into it. And for a small guy, I mean,
He
I'm not
actually
sure what he
fought in
weighs.
Tachi, right?
Oh, yeah, he's fought.
Yeah, he's fought at Tachi.
Yeah.
He
He's
did
fought.
good. He did good. He was in
Yeah,
that
he did
tournament.
well in MMA, but he really did good in jiu-jitsu.
Yeah, I couldn't
But that's
believe that.
great,
First
man.
time I ever seen that guy at a tournament, I sponsored him. His
Ridiculous.
His entry fee. He never even touched the ground. I was like, son of a bitch. And then he submits the dude.
Yeah, he's got a neon face, neon chest, neon belly game.
Everything, man. He's
No joke.
he's badass, man. Speedy.
That's good. So Angel Lopez, is he one of your main instructors?
Yeah, he runs classes in the AMs. Jeff Shields run classes in the PMs, especially for no-gi. And even in between then, I have solid brown belts, black belts running individual classes where I could jump in and get a good run for my money.
That's great, man. Does Ness train over there? Female?
The
She's-
female,
yeah,
yes,
she's
she
a
does
brown
pop
belt.
in.
She
yeah.
comes in there
She
once in a while,
pops
right?
She
in.
goes
Yeah.
everywhere,
She
man.
gives me a
Yeah.
run for my money also.
She's very good. She trains with us at Vitruvian with Mark De La Cruz and Camarillo.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah, she's really good. She was
Hey.
talking about how nice it was over there.
Gotcha. Yeah, every now and then I have people who are like a brick who I roll with who are mostly wrestlers, and you have people who feel like rubber. And
Yep.
she's one of them.
It's good.
Like pure jujitsu. Doesn't matter if you get a takedown, she's working on something right away.
Nice, man. So, are you just doing MMA, or you got a job too? Like
Yeah.
the rest of us.
Yeah, I work. I'm a personal trainer. I also work at a restaurant, and I do coach wrestling on the side.
Good, man. So you're on the grind then.
Yeah, I'm single, so I do as
Living
much
that
as I
single
can.
life.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, enjoy it, brother.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Enjoy it.
that's it.
Enjoy it. How old are you again?
26.
26, yeah, man. That's great, bro.
Yeah, so I'm taking as much as I can and climbing as far as I can before.
What is your main goal in this? Do you see an ending in it?
In MMA,
Or a goal for it?
I don't want to set any boundaries, so I'm going to shoot as high as I can, but most of it is to start my own wrestling team later
Nice.
on throughout the years.
That's good.
I just really can't get my name out there through wrestling anymore. I can't compete on the Olympian level or open U.S. world tournaments. I feel like wrestling does play a big part when I transfer over, when I fight against the boxer or
Definitely.
the grappler. Because I do train in all disciplines.
What do you guys got for striking?
Nobody right now. Not for me, however.
So what do you do? How do you seek it out?
Well, the fight before my last one, I went to a pure boxing gym, bullpen boxing.
Okay.
It's funny, I'm 26 years old, weighing maybe 135 during the time, and I have a 15-year-old boxer who's just eating me up.
Yeah,
Yeah.
they do that,
That's
man.
how it
Only
works.
if I could grab you.
I've
Only
taken
if I
some
could
up
grab
to
you.
some
Like,
gyms.
you wanna
and
wrestle a little
humbled
bit?
a lot of guys. And so old's that guy?
I had to, like,
15?
throw
Son
in
of
the
a bitch.
discipline.
Yeah, it is.
Once my shoulder hits his stomach, that's my go-to for a double leg. So
Yeah.
as long as I could keep circling,
Yep.
penetrate, come back up, penetrate, I'll be fine. But I realized when I put the time in boxing, it took me away from my wrestling.
Definitely.
And that's the only time in a fight where I got put on my butt,
When you were focusing on the
when
boxing.
I was focused on
Right.
pure boxing. So I
Yes, I
stopped
made that
going to the
mistake.
boxing and I put in all of MMA, where it's not just a boxing stance, but more lower wrestling stance boxing.
Yeah, there's definitely some adjustments that have to be made when you're
Yep.
training in those other arts.
And that's only if I go with a boxer now. If I'm fighting a kickboxer, I definitely have to learn how to check kicks at that
Yeah.
time. So, and it's way different with boxing. Boxing, your toe is faced inside on the front leg. Kickboxing, your toe better face out so you can check those kicks.
Yep.
And every now and then I find that I do it wrong sometimes when I get kicked.
Yeah, that's how you learn. Coming up in MMA, like, did you have any mentors or anybody you looked up to?
Yeah, the main reason I got into wrestling, I really didn't have a choice. My uncles, my mother's two younger brothers were pretty successful in high school wrestling. When I was 6 years old, they were about juniors and seniors in high school, so I didn't have a choice back then. They threw me in it
Yeah.
maybe until 9 years old. I was doing really good, but I wanted to switch it up and go to soccer until we lost in the championship, and it wasn't my fault, so I was like, screw this, I'm out of here. I'm going back to wrestling. And middle
Have
school,
control.
Yeah, middle school
control.
came in, and right in middle school, I never stopped. Went straight to high school, straight to college, and now I'm here, so wrestling
Nice.
is a good, my uncles are a big influence in me,
That's great, man.
for me.
And you're teaching, are you working with kids?
So I do work with kids for wrestling. For Bullard High School, they're really successful this year. I did more one-on-one wrestling with them in the wrestling room, but I also did their strength and conditioning.
Nice.
And before that, I have private group training, maybe anywhere from 7 to 15 adults looking to lose weight at Urban Block Fitness in Fresno, California.
Nice, very nice.
That keeps me busy, and I also am in the restaurant, but that's a good side play.
Which restaurant are you working at?
Westwood's Barbecue, Fresno,
Oh,
California.
Westwood's Barbecue.
That place is, I passed by it, I've seen the commercials. That's the next stop.
Stop right there.
But this is closer. So,
For one of us.
yeah, but, yeah, I know where that place is now. Last time when I met our producer Archie there, actually was in that parking lot. I looked up and I said, Westwood, there it is. I felt like it was one of those movies where your eyes start to
Yeah.
sparkle. I said, I gotta
Yeah,
get out
coming
of
off
here.
the highway, it
Yeah,
definitely catches
right there.
your eye.
Hey, Chris and Paul both, you guys, being wrestlers in the past, and I'm sure you guys have cut weight most of your life, a lot of weight cutting. What do you think about what's happening a lot this last year, it seems like, in the UFC with people not making weight?
I'm against people not making weight. I'm also against people forcing people to go certain weights. I'm up at 185. One of the reasons is because I'm forced out of my.
Now, they asked you to
welterweight.
go up to 185, right?
Well, I was kind of forced out of it, and that's not Bellator. That's just the state's commissions. They're implementing these hydration regulations that it makes it to where they can almost pull your fight depending on how your body reacts. And because fighting is it's in my occupation, it can't be a flip of a coin if I'm going to get paid that week or not.
Right.
There's just not enough coming on. I'm not on enough cards a year.
So
to
they're
play
testing
that.
your hydration level? Is that how
Well,
that's going, or what?
They
Yes.
have the gauge and
Yeah.
Okay.
to see if you're hydrated, if it's a risk of your body. Because, I mean, I'm a kidney patient. I do dialysis every day. And when I wake up, I'm dehydrated. So I kind of know. And then with these guys do it with a healthy body, oh, man, the effect is probably worse
I think-
than I have to deal
I
with.
think that would be fine. In high school, they did it, but it was once a year. Then that would let you know.
Well, they did the body fat and let you know what your body can go down to.
Yeah.
The day of the
versus-
fight?
Versus, oh, no. For in wrestling,
Oh,
they do the body fat, and then there's a scale, the BMI scale.
Shows you how far you
So
can
how
go
far
down
you can go down. So if you couldn't reach it, then you couldn't begin that season
ever in the whole year. Yeah.
for the rest of the year until the following year. But in fighting, they're doing it the day and then the day of the fight, the day of
Yeah.
weigh-ins and the day of the fight, of how your body responds to it as well. So it's just,
And they pushed up the time limit when you weigh in.
I
too.
quit really paying attention to it once they forced me out of the weight class, because at 185, I don't have to really worry about that too much.
So now you have no problem getting, I mean, of course, you were fighting at 170, now you're
Yeah, I
at
mean, it's
185.
20 pounds or so from my walking around, which is nothing compared to 35.
What would you say you're cutting the last week, if you're in the 185?
Probably about 192, 193. I stay about the same when I was when I was going down to 170. 170, I was about 188 or so. I'd cut about 13 to 15 pounds.
You
probably
feel
within
pretty
12
good
hours
still
of the
after that?
weigh-ins. Yeah, I mean, there's no problem rehydrating. I know at 170, sometimes I had a harder time rehydrating back up to the weight I would like. If I weighed at 170, I'd fight usually about 192. But there are times where
crazy.
I'd be right around 188.
Yeah.
And that's 4 pounds of water is the difference if your brain's completely hydrated
Yeah.
or if you're,
Yeah. 4 pounds of
sluggish.
water is no joke.
Yeah, I mean, it's a half a gallon, so.
Now, Paul, you're fighting an amateur. You guys weigh in the same day of the fight, right?
It depends on the promotion. There was one promotion where I was able to weigh in 24 hours before.
But for the most part, amateurs
They're-
weigh in the same day?
Yeah.
So
I would say
you
that.
really can't be messing around with that weight cut, right? You gotta be there
Yeah.
to feel
Definitely.
properly, right? So
Yeah.
so when you get to fight day, are you pretty comfortable? Are you at the weight you need to be? No problem?
I'm not going to be walking around at 125 the day before. I'll be about 133, and I'll go to sleep, make sure I'm able to eat. The morning of, I try to make sure my dehydration window is very small. I don't want to go. I hated going to bed dehydrated before
Oh,
a
yeah, it's
wrestling
horrible.
tournament. I didn't get any sleep. At least I get a good workout in the night before, get good late night dinner, wake up early. I figured out Epsom salt baths, pull that water out. I don't have to sit in a sauna
Old Epsom salt trick.
or run on a treadmill or anything the day of. So
That's good.
yeah, I'll do that maybe about 8 a.m. Wait, get out of the house 9:30, head to weigh-ins. Weigh in about 11:15. They say 10.
Yeah.
And
Brazilian time.
yeah, rehydrate really quick. Have a pinch of salt. I won't get up too high, maybe 33 the most the day of the fight when I'm in the cage. But I feel weight cutting for me plays an advantage for me. If I fought at 135s, I weigh about 142, 143, so it wouldn't be a big weight cut. So I would lack the cardio I force myself to do for 125s. And I think
Nice.
in pros it'll make a bigger effect because it's 5-minute rounds.
Definitely, and you'll have the day before to weigh in.
Yeah.
It's gonna be great for you.
All right, we're going to hold our thoughts there. Time to pay bills again, courtesy of Spike and Nail, and we'll be back. Huh? Spike and Nail?
Spike and rail, right?
Spike and Ray. I said Spike.
There you go. You remember if you forget.
All right, yeah, I know. I'm sorry.
You all right? Sounds the same.
Huh?
How are we doing?
We're going to finish off this pretty last segment, so 17.
Is there anything you want us to go
Spike
over?
and Ray. Spike and
Is
Nail.
everything going all right? Okay, good, great.
I would have nudged you if I would have picked up on that, but you caught me.
All right, we're back. This is Chris Ronquillo, Tom Owens, Paul Elizondo, and Bellator vet Chris Honeycutt. And we're here, and what big shout out to Spike and Rail for the food, for giving us the opportunity to do our thing here and on a regular basis. And like I said earlier when we first started, we've got a lot of room, folks. If you guys are in town, passing through, stop by, be part of the show. And if you can't, or if you do get a chance, whether it's lunchtime or dinner, weekend, whatever, or you're down the street or a block over buying a car, stop in and then tell a friend. Now we're going to get back into more conversation with my guys here. Go ahead.
So, what if things were to go the way you would like, Paul? What's next for you? What's on your plate?
Having a good, solid lightweight team for myself, and not necessarily just myself, for everyone on the team. I've been having to search for the best jiu-jitsu guys, the best boxers, the best wrestlers my size who will actually allow me to go into either to their gyms or come into my gym.
Right.
And I really don't want to travel to Sacramento for Team Alpha Male to make that big jump. I feel like the talent is in Central California, just like Sacramento.
Yeah, it's here.
And I could definitely compete with any of those guys, I feel. So I'm just gonna keep going until maybe I get knocked out twice, but who knows? We'll see.
You never know in this
Definitely not.
game.
I mean, there is a lot of guys. I mean, right down the street we have Joe Soto, periodically Alex Perez. I mean, there's a lot of a lot of guys. I mean, you have kickboxing, OKG, One Kicks in Visalia. Have a lot of lightweight guys over there. Boxing, I mean, you're in Fresno, man. There's all kinds of boxing gyms.
Definitely.
A lot of young 15 and 16-year-olds.
Well, when I say I'm searching for the best boxers and jiu-jitsu guys, I have to do that because no one has the complete package.
Yeah.
No one's working on the complete
Yeah.
package.
Exactly.
Like as an MMA, no one has a good boxing background who's been doing jiu-jitsu for 2 years and wrestling for a year.
They're all basically at that same level trying to catch up.
Even with the boxers and the jiu-jitsu guys, I found out they make the time for those sports, but not really wrestling because it's such a grind.
Or mixing it all together.
Yeah.
Not very many fighters do just wrestling as
Correct.
on a discipline of its own.
Correct.
They just try to mix it in with the jiu-jitsu,
Yeah.
which is
Grappling.
what I find to be one of the hardest things to do. I mean, for me, I'm able to go to Fresno State and work out because they have an RTC program, but they're all big guys and they're bigger than me.
Yeah.
So
So you go over there and get some just straight wrestling in?
if I feel like I need to keep brushing, I mean, I've done it my whole life, so I feel like it's always be there. But sometimes you get a little rusty in it,
Yeah.
so I go there to
Sharpen
find
that sword.
to keep them sharp. Yeah. I mean, having Ed Ruth and Deron Wynn and Ernest James that are also wrestlers, it's pretty easy to do the wrestling and jiu-jitsu together because.
Now, you guys are AKA affiliated?
We do make trips down there, road trips down there from time to time. When we get into camp, we tend to do more, or at least when I get into camp, I tend to go there a little more.
Do you train
But,
with like DC and Kane and these guys? Have you
Yeah,
had a chance to?
if they're in fight camps and they're there, then I try to get, obviously they're a hot commodity, so everyone's trying to get their time in with them. But when I'm in camp and I'm down there, I try to get my rounds in with them as much
They
as I
have a
can.
lot of guys we don't even heard of yet.
Oh,
over
man, I
there.
can't
Well, their
imagine.
room is just so packed.
Yeah.
I mean, that's
Is
the one.
Khabib there too?
Khabib is there, yeah. When he's
Have
in
you rolled
camp,
with
he's
Khabib?
there. I've worked with Khabib a little bit, a couple years ago. Like I said, I only go when I'm in camp, so it's kind of it has to match up. But I think the next time Khabib's in, I'm gonna make the time to go down to train with him. Even though it's his camp, if I'm not in camp, hopefully he'll be one soon. So
Yeah.
will I.
Get in there with him a little bit.
But he's I've watched some of his fights, and he's the style I would like to fight.
Yeah.
'Cause he doesn't like to waste time or dance around. He
A
likes
lot of pressure.
He likes to fight.
Very similar to your style, just constant forward pressure, keeping it on the guy. If you think to learn wrestling for MMA, the best thing to do is just get in there and straight wrestle?
Yeah, I mean, if someone was coming up to me and was an adult wanting to learn wrestling, I mean, really the only thing you can do is to go find a college that'll allow you to in their room in the off season. because there's really not very many adult wrestling programs out there. So you'd have to either go to college and find time with a college team if their coach would allow you to do it, or you're just going to go to a college wrestling camp. But most kids that are going to wrestling camps are high school kids.
Right.
Unless you're my size, then I get to fit in.
Yeah,
with
then you're
everybody.
Yeah, I mean, that's
Then
perfect
you're
for
good
you.
to go.
I would do it if I were you, for sure.
I do actually. In Bullard High School, we have a really good national sophomore and junior national champ who plays state placer every year. And this kid's getting bigger and bigger than me each year, but he gives me a run for my money. And my second to last 2 fights, he basically was my training partner. So yeah, wrestling plays a big deal in it. Live wrestling, though, I would think that they would make a lot of bad habits. I would say
Right.
drill, even though that's the boringest thing to do.
But when you guys spar, when it comes to that, you're mixing it all up, of course. I always hear about people overdoing it with the sparring, and everybody's got their own
Sparring and
method.
wrestling, like live
Just
wrestling or
the,
full MMA.
full MMA
Gotcha.
sparring. So when you guys are going at it, what's the tempo like? Are you guys really going for it? I've seen people try to take each other's heads off, and then some people have a more methodical approach to it.
For me, it varies. I would say in a training camp, within the last 2 months, I would say I would do a month and a half, maybe 3 days out of the week. One of those days be really hard sparring.
Going for it?
Yeah, going for it. Headgear I always wear, even though it sucks when I grapple in the live sparring. But
What about the gloves?
I would wear 12-ounce gloves. If it's grappling with a little bit of punches, we'll do that, but I wouldn't be on my feet with MMA
With the
gloves
MMA gloves.
that much. I made the mistake one time. It's hard for me, like I said, to find
Yeah.
partners, so I picked up one of my old wrestling partners. He's about 170, and
And so
I just
let's
had
try it
one.
with the,
I had one little tap with the cushioned gloves, though. It's MMA gloves, but they have a big cushion
Yeah,
on
yeah.
them. And I was walking around the restaurant with a huge raccoon eye for about 2 weeks. So I was like, now I know.
nice little trophy. How about you, Chris?
Size makes a difference.
Yeah, we've changed it a little bit a few years ago. We pretty much spar twice a week. Tuesday's our hard day. I would say swinging for the fences. By all means, we're not trying to just tap each other. You
Be
make
connected.
Yeah, I mean, if you have bad habits and someone punches you, you got to make them pay. Especially if you're being a good teammate. If you're just touching them, then they're not going to respect you.
Yeah, true.
So I would say about 80% or so. And then when I'm in fight camp, I would say that on a weekly basis by any means, but you do need to get your couple sparring sessions in within your camp where you're making it realistic. So realistic fighting, because even in the fight, you don't swing for the fences. You try to make them land, because you don't need to punch somebody as hard as you can to knock them out. You catch a nice and easy jab on the right timing, they're going to sleep anyways, or you rock them, and then you have all the time in the world to finish the fight. You just can't let them stand there, obviously, but.
Does LeVar Johnson train with you guys?
Yeah, LeVar, he hasn't been in a while, but yeah, LeVar he did his last 3 or 4 fights out of the gym,
Nice.
which I think it was a while ago since he's fought, but.
Yeah, it's been a little while.
Did he's out? Yeah, I know he was away, so he's out now. So, I don't know. I haven't heard from him. I used to hear from him all the time, and then, that thing happened.
Yeah. George Zuniga would come in, but he ended up becoming a police officer. So he started about the time I moved here. So we were about the same set. Well, he was bigger than me. He's like 210 or so. When I moved here, about 215, but I didn't work out for 3 years. I tried to get my body down to make 170. And so me and George would actually learn together. But just about a year ago, he ended up taking a job and becoming a police officer. So it's real nice.
All right. I'm going to change it up a little bit. We're going to talk about, because we have a lot of local fighters that fight pro that are made it. I mean, Marion Renault, from Visalia, obviously.
Ken
we have
Carrizosa.
Kane. But he's kind of off the radar, but I'm talking about current Joe Soto.
Yeah.
Alex Perez. We're lucky to have this guy here, Chris Honeycutt, Javi Ayala. Tachi, they got some prospects coming up. Have you had a chance to see any of the Tachi last pro fights or any of the locals you think that might be coming up? Some guys to look at.
I'm drawing a blank on some names. I just recently started following the 559 fights and all the
Oh, okay,
local
the
fights.
amateurs. Well, what
But,
about that stuff like that?
Yeah, I mean, as far as a whole, is the talent's there.
Yeah.
I just have if finding a fight now is hard, the next generation is going to be a lot harder because there is a lot of talented guys out there that are an amateur or just starting off their pro career that are entering into the field where
They have the experience versus where like these guys started, there was no amateurs. They just went out there and had to take a fight.
and if you were a fighter and you could scrap, then you got fights.
Yeah.
You
Where
could get a
there's-
fight even if you couldn't scrap.
Oh, now it's
I
like
wouldn't
finding
even talk
water in
about,
the
I
ocean.
wouldn't talk
It's-
about that.
there's-
Talk
I
about
remember,
that.
yeah.
She still could, but that
Right?
promotion they do with AP right
No,
now.
no, those are the days of the past.
Yeah. But
Um,
those were some times, man.
If there was a youngster out there that was thinking about getting into MMA, what would you say to somebody? If they're a wrestler out there and they're doing well in wrestling and they want to make that transfer over to MMA.
Why not have them just go spar? I mean, that's before I even moved out to California and became a fighter. I actually came out for a month when Josh was still at AKA training. Just Koscheck, yeah, to work so that I could spar, John Fitch, Swick, Koscheck, DC. I think at the time King Mo was still there, or just some of the biggest names in the sport. And I went there to fight, not initially because I thought I would be really, really good because I didn't know anything other than wrestling. But until you get hit in the face really, really hard, that's that split second. You're gonna know if you're a fighter or not.
If it's for you or not.
Because some people cower when they get hit in the face,
Yeah.
and some people, get more determined. So
Fight or flight.
Fight or flight. It's a
And
real
freeze.
thing.
And freeze. There's
Or
freeze
freeze
there.
up.
It is. It is. I've had to deal with stuff like that before because I work a lot with the Victory Outreach. Get these kids off the street and try to give them some kind of, a foundation of trust and a different type of family and help build their self-esteem versus from the street. And you got guys out there obviously that think they are kind of tough.
Yeah.
And that was the first thing we did is lace them up and put headgear in, and maybe one might make it,
Through the fire.
Yeah.
Just throw them into the
through the
pot.
fire. The other ones, they buy tickets at the guy's fight.
Yeah, exactly.
But it's a humbling experience, but it's a reality check too, especially when you have a kid that's, ultra boy.
Yeah.
And humbles you.
That's
you know?
true.
And then you have some that are tough. I mean, look at Doug Marshall.
Right.
At that first time
One of the
I
local
heard,
legends.
I've known his dad for years because one of my daughters used to race sprint cars, and his dad every week would video her, and we would buy the tapes.
The Wizard.
Yeah, at Plaza Park and all that stuff. So we became good friends for a while, and then later on, when I got involved in this, I heard that name, and I said, Junior, I knew he had a son, but Blake, that was the only one I knew.
Right.
And then I met Doug when I was in Exeter, because the guys that were doing my jackets and shirts and all that stuff at the time, they said, have you ever heard of him? I go, no. And then I seen a picture of him, and then I said, I wonder if that's Wizard's son,
Yeah.
So anyways, it came, push came to shove, and we became real close, and the rest is history. Look at him, what he did. I personally, when I first seen him fight, and then the person he did fight, didn't last very long, and then I said, well,
Right.
we'll see what happens next time. Then it started happening again and again and again. I said, man, we'd be on something here.
Yeah. Props to Doug Marshall Sr. and Doug Marshall Jr. Yeah, those are good
Yeah.
people. And Blake, if you're out there. Yeah, Doug made quite an impact on the scene. People thought he was just a local street fighter, but he's an intelligent guy and he's got some skills.
Yeah, he is.
He
He
showed
is.
that real quick. Yeah, those were the good old days.
Yeah, and that was
Sure.
one guy that was a scrapper on the street, and
turned
that
it
stereotype, and lived up to that testimonial, man, and weathered the storm. But yeah, it was crazy during that time, because what he would do in that cage, when you talk to, that's Rhino, and when you talk to Doug outside that cage,
Right.
it's just got a whole different kind of guy,
Yeah, totally different deal. But he could turn that energy on.
Yeah, so.
Nice, man. So what else is going on in your life, Paul? Besides training and work.
Man,
You say you're single.
yeah,
so
single.
No girlfriend or anything, huh?
No, nothing right now.
Keeping that mind clear.
Ladies, if you're waiting for somebody, actually, no pressure at all. My parents just gave me a brand new little baby brother.
Oh, right on.
So I'm
Congratulations.
dealing with him. I was
They're
like,
probably
"You
saying,
guys- no
come on,
grandkids, here you go.
we're doing
Knock
this.
yourself out.
Yeah.
Now, ladies, don't get too excited, because if you want to be a ball and chain with this guy, you got to have a stretchy ball and chain, because
Oh.
training is very important.
Yes, it is.
It's not easy being in a relationship with a fighter.
Yeah, to be honest, that is probably a big reason. Like right now, after my fights, I try not to burn myself out, because when I'm in a training camp, it's just work, gym, home, work, gym, home, recovery. And right now, I'm actually being able to have fun, maybe go out, go have a burger after
Enjoy it.
practice. Yeah, because right when I know
Enjoy
it's
it.
coming around
Yeah.
again, it's
How about you, Chris?
No.
Relationship?
Yeah, I have a girlfriend for 8 years. So
I saw a video on YouTube, interview with her, and you is it the same?
yeah, same girlfriend. Yeah, I've had her since my junior year of college. She's
She seems very supportive of it.
I don't know what I would do if I didn't have her around. When fight camp, especially when fight camps come around.
Keeper. That's a keeper.
She makes sure I'm fed and eating healthy foods. If I tend to stay up late at night, she's reminding me that's probably not the best decision.
Does she like to train as well?
She works, so she's not always around for the actual training. But anytime she has free, she does come in and to show support. And
Does she
I
attend
got
your
her
fights?
gloves. I got her
Yeah.
mitts. So she likes to
Nice.
she likes to mess around with it and kind of relate to what I do for a living. But no, she keeps me very even keel.
That's great, man.
So-
A lot of guys have a hard time with
Definitely
the
a keeper.
managing both things, fighting, training, and having a relationship. Doesn't always work.
Yeah, I think she makes it easier for me,
That's good.
and it's obvious that she goes out of her way to do so. So I'm really thankful for
Not
it.
married?
Not yet. I'm
yet?
I'm waiting on Bellator.
Yeah.
I'm waiting on Bellator.
Come on,
I'm on a goose egg this year.
That's it. I mean, this guy's got a heck of a following. I've been to his fights in Fresno and San Jose, and
Yeah.
they come, man, to see
Yeah.
this guy fight. Plus, I see some of the people out in the crowd that are cheering for him. It's like, wow. Give me 20 years back here, man.
Yeah.
I could be right in that crowd. So there's a lot of temptations, man. I mean, it's crazy, but this guy basically pays for himself when he fights. A lot of people come to see him.
It's nice. I've been out here in California for 5-6 years, so it has become a home to me. And I'm from Cleveland, so Cleveland, New York, and I lived a couple years in Massachusetts, so I have a little bit of a New England backing. But it's nice because I can fight on either this side of the coast or that side of the coast, and I can still get a decent draw. And I like it the most because I get to see people I haven't seen in years.
Yeah, that's
Because
pretty
it's not like I have time to go fly places to see friends.
Yeah.
Have you actually fought in Ohio?
Not yet. The closest I had was in, I forgot which part, but it was close to Rochester, Buffalo, New York-ish area. I think it was like in between the two. It was about 6 hours from Cleveland, 5 hours, which I had probably 3 or 4 dozen friends that I haven't seen since high school. That came because all my family lives in the Carolinas now. So
Are you the type of person like both of you guys? Do you feed off that energy from the crowd when the crowd's going? Or is it more when
Yeah.
you get in there, you can just block out everything?
I like to feed off of it. Once the whistle blows, it's very quickly. It kind of comes into
Tunnel
to
vision?
where it's silent.
Yeah, just
almost.
echo.
I mean, unless the whole crowd starts like
Yeah.
booing or cheering and like immediately at once. But for the most part, I don't even notice it.
How about you, Paul? What's it like when you get in there?
My first 2 fights, I don't really remember.
Just kind of a daze.
Yeah,
No.
my first 2, I don't remember.
Don't.
And then my third fight, I'm getting my hands wrapped, and the guy wrapping my hands is telling me, giving me his history, and he's saying, after he got comfortable, he was looking through the cage, he was able to listen to the crowd, and he got knocked out. I was like, okay, I'm not listening to the crowd. But
Yeah.
I do hear the chants. I do hear the typical, put him in the body bag.
Kill him!
Yeah. So
Yeah.
No mercy!
for the most part, though, I've always had home court advantage. So it will be,
You've had most of all your fights around here?
yeah, that Central Valley have been all my fights. For a reason, too. I want to make that commission, ticket sales. I want to get paid as much as I can.
So
Right.
were you, you're from here, were you going out like back in the day when WEC was out here in Lemoore? Did you attend any of those shows?
No, my uncles actually took me to one in Tachi when Stephen Abbas fought.
All right.
And that's the only one when I was younger that I remember. Other than that, not really, just on TV. Seen Chuck Liddell, seen a little bit of Uriah Faber back then. That's pretty much it.
All right, we're going to stop it there. Time to pay bills again. Shout out to Spike and Rail for all this food, the time, the hospitality here, and we'll be right back.
You want to edit that last part?
Well, this brings us back.
We'll close
We're
it.
going to go and say thank you, and then we'll close it, and then till next week. It went quick.
Do you have a guest lined up for the next?
We got, yeah,
Momo said that she would be down for it. I talked to her.
okay, we can get her, but we talked about Avalos, and then I talked to Uni.
Oh, yeah. I talked
Both
to
of
her
them
as
just
well.
got that contract from Tachi too, so that
Okay,
would
great.
be good.
Yeah. It'd be great to
Okay.
get Amy on here for sure.
Yeah.
Do we get all the sponsors?
All right, guys, this is Chris Ronquillo once again here at Spike and Rail. Thank you for the hospitality, the great food, and we want to shout out to Chris Honeycutt for his time. Tom Owens, my co-host, and my other partner out here, Paul Elizondo, is going to be joining us. Next Wednesday, hopefully, we're going to have that Jose Avalos and potential Uni Valencia. If not, it's going to be a good show regardless because we have someone that's on deck anyway. So that's it, and it's a wrap for today. We'll see you next week at 6:30. So tell a friend. Wrap.
Thank you,
Awesome.
man. Appreciate it,
Nice
man. I'll come train with you guys,
Right on,
dude.
buddy.
Definitely.
Thank you, man.
Thank you,
Thank
sir.
you, Chris.
Nice meeting
Hey,
you. Love to come
awesome.
train with you guys.
Fun,
when it's
dude.
time.
Yeah, or vice versa.
Yeah, you can come over anytime, man. We're at we're
Coming
training
on
at
here,
the Get Fit
and
gym
then
in
you
Visalia.
doing your stuff.
I
The
sent
next
you a,
time you fight,
Facebook request
say God willing, when you
today.
turn pro,
Friend me
you're
on there and I'll
gonna
send
sell a
you
lot of tickets
Oh, yeah.
because this is the
Okay.
traffic right here. Dude, I got so many people that follow me
I always mix
because I've been
up
doing this stuff
on
for a long
Visalia.
time.
That's,
But
Yeah, you just
is
go
that where
towards,
the,
I have so many other
MMA?
things I do
Really?
That's where
that I
Tom's
kind of
Yeah.
went away
Yeah,
from.
because
they just
October will be
moved,
17
right?
years I've been covering
Is that the
that.
gym?
No, it's
You know, and
different.
I've
Oh,
had
okay. The same area.
magazines,
Yep, same
sponsor
time.
UFC fighters, and
Yeah, because I was
just
going on
blew
there
up.
and work with him to get ready
But then
for,
Yeah.
I kind of went away
Yeah, they're
from my
great.
other
Which-
commitments and
So
stuff.
were
And
you
then
rolling
when I
with
became a
them?
kidney
whoever,
patient,
yeah,
kind
mainly him.
Did you get some good
of
rolls?
hampered my
Yeah,
health.
that's
Yeah,
great
so I
rolls.
kind of
Yeah.
kind
He's
of
a big
mentally
guy.
I want to, but health wise
He
I
just took a
can't.
stop
So
on.
I got to be
Good, he's
disciplined.
good on it.
Yeah, yeah.
So
I was wondering
I'll
for
utilize
That's
my
great.
There's a
skills
couple
here. So
youngsters in there that are unbelievable.
what I
Oh,
want to
this is-
do
that's-
is have
The
you
ones like-
basically
yeah,
out there because
yeah.
you're
I know exactly.
you're current.
Phenoms, man.
You're the next generation.
It's like I wish I
I
was
mean,
exposed.
a lot of people
I
still
wish I was
know me,
exposed
but
to
there's
those
a next generation that don't. So I want to
They
get
come
that
from wrestling.
product
And
identity
their-
out
their
there.
older brother,
But
Alex Cisneros, I
using
forget
you
what
out
school he
there and
wrestles
you
at, but
being
he's a
current,
stud,
it's
man.
going to
Yeah.
help you
They were
because
already like wrestling
it's going to
champs before they
boost
hopped
you
into
so when
the
you fight,
jiu-jitsu. And
you
it's
know,
just-
not just a
And
correspondent.
MASH, yeah.
It's-
You know,
Yeah,
kind of
I
like what we
always
did
put
to
all
Jeremy
the MMA in
Lucha.
college
I mean, he was a
because
writer
they
for the
wanted
Hanford
that
Sentinel,
Yep.
and then we
But now
made
after
him the
doing it,
project.
kind of-
Ended up
I
training
can
him and
separate
putting him in
it,
there,
separate
and
it pretty
he
well.
became a fighter. And
Take a
now
Some people can't do it.
he's a
Some
good
people-
promotion.
Two, and
You know, and that's how it all
you
started
kinda
for
get it-
him.
You kind of click
You
it
know,
back
but-
into the break.
Glad you guys let me
I know
put
you
my
like
foot
to
in the
sit
door.
Yeah, so it'll be good, and that's what I was
I'm
telling
sure you work all positions.
When I do
Archie.
jiu-jitsu,
I go, we can
always try to
utilize
put my
that because we can't be
I always
everywhere.
try to
you know?
Give up guard.
And
Yeah.
this way
Give
you
him-
give
give
the
him- give him
view
side
of the
control.
fighter
Yeah, just start
and the
just off in a
process
bad
what it
spot.
takes.
It's good to do.
And I don't have to
really good to do,
educate
man.
you on
But
what to
I-
ask because
Yeah, I'm-
you're
with the exception
experiencing
of a
the
couple
same
of guys in the
thing.
gym
So-
now,
And it
for
makes
the
it
most part,
not
my
fake.
mentality
Where I've
is
seen other
forcing it,
shows
not
and
forcing
you
it.
can see the guy, it's
wrestling,
kind of fake.
I hardly
And this is the
never
kind of way,
bad spots. So
the
I
way
try
I'm
to put
talking to you is
myself
the way I
Yep,
do the
you
show.
like to
Yeah,
just
the
start
flow.
it.
And everybody's, if I do an interview, they get nervous right off the bat because they see this.
Just get in the worst
And once we
position.
do it, they're like,
Bring
dang,
it
that
out
was
so that
cool,
long time ago,
dude. Normally everybody's,
start
because
in the
my
worst
friend
position,
Richie Ortiz
and
has the
you
fighter's
end up
voice.
Okay.
And Richie, he's a good guy, but it's just like
Did they
fake,
do that in
man. It's
wrestling
just
a lot?
like,
I see, I didn't wrestle.
you know, he tries too hard. You know, it's not about the hood, you know, this. It's not that. I was in broadcasting
What
before
would you
I
suggest,
moved here for
like,
10 years.
Yeah.
And
Chill,
it's,
laid
those
back,
days were in the
conversation.
60s.
Yes.
Yeah,
good
it's
to
like
start
my
like
good friend
that?
next door.
Like
It
that?
gives you the
Yeah,
atmosphere
they-
of people being comfortable,
situation.
where they get the impulse, they want to meet you, you're their friend, they want
What are
to
some drills
know,
that you do?
you know?
Well,
I mean,
first you always
MMA
it's not- you
junkies,
just don't mean
they
sprawl.
listen to our
How you
show.
gonna
They
get
said,
the-
dude, you guys are
you always gotta
awesome. You're
pop
doing
the
all
head
your
forward
your
and
stuff.
try to get the
And I
head
mean, that's
inside.
probably one of the
If it's a
biggest
high
shows there is,
crotch,
you know?
or even if it's a double.
But,
You always gotta
yeah, we're
pop
gonna do a
the
lot,
inside.
especially
You're
when
gonna
we
push
have
the
more
head to the
people
inside.
together,
Then
because
that's
there's a
when you
lot of
sprawl.
events, man,
You
all
don't
the
necessarily have to
time
jump. A lot of people think
that
sprawling
we
is
get
jumping
called to
backwards.
cover, but we can't
You
be
don't necessarily
everywhere.
jump
Yeah.
backwards. You just
Definitely.
you just try
know?
to drop down.
So, especially like the next
Everyone-
559 fights, I
everyone
haven't been to any
down with pushing backwards.
for a while. I'm probably going to go to the next one, which I think we should. I want to get a hold of
Straight down.
Jeremy
A lot of people think
and see if we
sprawling
get
is
some
jump up
tickets
and
away
you
to
slam
punt,
down.
because they don't sell
Or you
out.
jump
They
up and you
should,
jump backwards.
but they, you know, they get that cheap little commercial from the beer thing. But here, I think we get more traffic. 'Cause people, everybody's on Facebook. And if it's a live stream, they're like, oh yeah, you know, it's current.
Put the head in the
You
inside.
know?
Do you have really anybody going for?
And then we're the same people they're going to see
I've been taking a
tomorrow,
Walking.
Lovato got
you
me
know,
down for a second.
and they're going to say, hey,
I
I can
hopped
get those
back up
tickets,
right
boom,
away.
whatever.
Right away.
So it helps
And then
him.
I ended up
He
taking
gives
him
tickets
down and then I
away.
finished around
So